Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We're about to begin a session titled Compassionate Karachi. Please switch off your mobile phones or put them on the silent mode. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the discussion. We would appreciate if complete silence is observed while the session is in progress. The speakers for today is Armstrong on Skype. We have Mr. Pervez Hoodbhoy, Mr. Jameel Yusuf, Mr. Ishrat Husain, and Mr. Shoaib Ahmed Siddiqui. And our moderator for this session is Amin Hashwani. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hashwani.
Thank you. We're just getting Karen Armstrong online. I'll just take a few more minutes. Thank you all for being here. Let me just start by giving a context. Why are we here and why are we doing this session? We all know that Pakistan has a range of problems on multiple fronts. And whenever we talk about solutions, we always talk in terms of economy or in terms of politics. Okay, if Pakistan ki agar export बढ़ जाए, उसकी GDP बेहतर हो जाए, or we talk about के Benazir came, democracy came, Mia Saab came, business people, and now we're looking at Naya Pakistan, another political leader coming, and somehow he or she will be able to solve all our problems. While if you see Pakistan's real, the solution that lies for Pakistan is not economic, it's not political, it is cultural and it is social. In 1947, we had literally nothing, and in a span of 15 years, we were on our way to become the first Asian tiger. Today, we have everything. We have a vibrant economy, we have institutions, we have financial reserves, we have industrial base, we have infrastructure, and yet we are failing miserably. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that what did we have in 1947 where we became the first Asian tiger, and today we do not have that, right? And that is having one society, and you can phrase it national identity or whatever. So my slogan would always be, we want the Purana Pakistan, not a Naya Pakistan, right? Compassionate city. If you look at the nation-state structures that are there today, they're pretty outdated now. These are industrial era structures, political structures that serve that purpose today. Today in the globalized world, nation-state structures are actually becoming irrelevant. They are failing, democracies are failing to deliver the services for the common man. It's not rising up to the aspirations of the common people. Hence, we should somehow go back and look at these cities. The renaissance is going to happen from the cities. Cities are older than nation-state structures. Karachi is older than Pakistan, Rome is older than Italy, right? So whatever, and cities are where, these were the cradles of democracy traditionally. Cities is where the rubber meets the road, where your streets get clean, your water gets provided, your administrators deliver services to the public, or else they get booted out. This is very, very different than Islamabad or Washington, DC. Hence, Compassionate Karachi initiative. It's about changing the nation, Pakistan, one city at a time. And Karachi is the first city which we're declaring here today as a Compassionate Karachi. Charter for Compassion, we've been here since some time. We have the Compassionate School Network. We're in about 100 schools. We have Compassionate Community Engagement. We have Compassionate Business, which we've launched. And now it's Compassionate Karachi. I Am Karachi is a co-sponsor for the Karachi Literary Festival. This is an initiative, it's a consortium of NGOs, civil society activists, some of whom are present in this room here today. We've all come together to try and make a better Karachi. And it's about teamwork, and it is about the whole being greater than its parts. It's really about unity. So all of you are invited to join this consortium, this movement, I Am Karachi, and inshallah, something good will come out of this thing. Zareen, how are we doing with Karen Armstrong? 2 seconds? Okay, 2 seconds over. All right. We're just getting Karen Armstrong online. There is a team at a place to get her. Are we? No, so then shall we start with the panel discussion? Okay, fine. While we have some time, let me just say something. You know, we talk about faith, and faith is a very integral part of our being here. This charter that we are drafting, it is a document of faith. Faith is not about being certain about something. It's not certainty. It's not about self-righteousness. Faith is about uncertainty. Faith is about quest into the unknown, not knowing what's going to come next, yet you have the faith. It's about rising above our fears. It's about striving against all odds. And it is a choice. Because the alternative, if we do not have faith, is despair, inaction, despondency, and resignation of the human spirit. So hence, we, the citizens of Karachi, have no choice but to have faith for a better Karachi. And that is what this whole Compassionate Karachi initiative is. And they say, you know, I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness. And this is exactly what we're doing. We understand that we have huge problems, but you know, we need to strive forward and hope for the best. We have launched I Am Karachi book also. These are submissions from various people from the city and from the central prison, Karachi Central Prison, about what is their vision of a compassionate Karachi. These are short stories, these are like poems. So these are also available at the stall. We are also today launching the Compassionate Karachi Charter. This has been, we've had about 400,000 submissions of what in schools, universities, businesses, of what your vision of a compassionate Karachi is. From these 400,000 visions that we've received, we have drafted a one-page document that is Charter for Compassion Karachi. And that includes the aspirations of these 400,000 people. So I would urge, this is like available and all of you guys can like get it. Zareen, 2 minutes is over. How are we doing for time? Okay. So can we then delay it and we go for our panel discussions? Then we'll take her after between 20 minutes. So I think there is some delay and we'll be running really short of time. So may I request the panelists to come on stage, and maybe we will start our session first and then we will take Karen Armstrong online. Zareen, you can message her then, okay? So please, Dr. Saab, please. Okay, so our panelists, we have Dr. Ishrat Husain Saab. I think all of you guys know him. He's from the World Bank to the State Bank of Pakistan and now to IBA. She's online. All right, so maybe if it's with your permission, shall we take Karen Armstrong for like 10 minutes and then we'll do that? Sure. Yeah? Please. Okay, fine. Zareen, can you? So you guys can sit here if you want. Okay.
They'll be seeing, Karen, they're seeing a lot of.
Oh, yes, right. Sorry, that's fine. Okay. Hi, Karen. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. All right, good. So, Hi, Karen. So, welcome to the Karachi Literary Festival. All of you know Karen Armstrong. She was a keynote speaker a few years ago. And Karen, we would appreciate if you could give us a 10-minute introduction to the Chart of Compassion, its global context, its relevant in our day and age, and the impact that it is having in our world. So Karen, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Amin. Hello, everybody in Karachi. I can hear some kind of feedback here. Is that okay? All right. I can hear some feedback. Never mind. We're living in a very, very frightening and turbulent world. We just look at the newspapers, we look at the Islamic State, we look at this tragic death of 165 Pakistani children just a few weeks ago, 2,000 people killed in Nigeria by Boko Haram, and then the Paris disaster. We need now, more than ever, to implement the golden rule. Always treat others, all others, as you would wish to be treated yourself. Or as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, not one of you can be a believer unless he desires for his neighbor what he desires for himself. And today, our neighbor is everybody in the world. We're living in a global society, and we cannot live without one another as we did perhaps in the past. Our economies are so deeply interlinked and interwoven that when stocks fall in one part of the world, markets plummet all around the globe that day. We're politically interconnected because what's happening in the Middle East has already had a blowback effect in Canada, for example. And we all face the same environmental catastrophe. We're linked together electronically as never before. Here I am speaking to you in faraway, freezing cold London. And so we now have to develop a more compassionate view of one another, learning one another's histories, how our histories are intertwined. Certainly, in our history in Britain is deeply intertwined with the Indian subcontinent because of our colonial past. And I'm convinced that if we British in our colonies had treated all peoples as we would wish to be treated ourselves, we wouldn't be having so many political problems today. And we launched the Charter for Compassion in 2009, and it has become a global movement. One of the things that is happening is that people are declaring their cities to be cities of compassion, trying to bring the golden rule, the idealism of the golden rule, into the gritty urban reality that makes up 21st century life. And we're not saying that a city is a compassionate city, but that it is aspiring to be one and working realistically, practically, and creatively to treat other peoples with respect. And it's my dream to twin some of these cities so that perhaps Karachi could become a sister city, as it were, with a city in the West, so that the young people can exchange emails and have electronic friendships. We exchange news, visits, and some of the misapprehensions we have about one another can be diluted and diminished, because there is an urgency about this. I'm not into compassion because I'm filled with peace and love and joy. I'm not particularly. I am filled with a sense of dread because unless we manage now to create a global society where peoples of all ethnicities, all ideologies can live together in mutual respect, I don't think the world is going to be a viable place. This is the task of our time. And we have all, in whatever work of life we find ourselves, to see how we can implement that golden rule uh, creatively, practically, and realistically. Always there must be an element on the practice. It's one of the things that I'm proudest about, is that Pakistan has, at the very beginning, been one of the chief players in the Charter for Compassion. For me, it's the jewel in the crown, because you are living right on the front line of so many of the conflicts that are tearing our traumatized world apart. And so often Muslims are put these days on the defensive. When something happens, as in Paris, they're asked to explain. And here we have, from Pakistan, your wonderful network of schools of compassion. Here you are showing the world that Islam is not a religion of violence, but a religion of peace and respect, and without racial hatred or prejudice. Now, I know there's a move created to make Karachi a city of compassion, and that would be wonderful. And I've been having some thoughts these last few days because of a development that happened last week in Amin, which declared itself a city of compassion. Now, Amin, like yourselves, is also a city on the front line, another front line. And, you know, since this event happened, we see now Jordan, with the tragic loss of the pilot, now at war more vigorously with IS. And the whole region is in turmoil. So it was a great joy to me when Amman became a city of compassion. But the organizer there said he wanted to do it independently and then come to the West independently as a city of compassion without being approved, as it were, by the Seattle group in the United States. And I think it's time now that we're developing so many cities of compassion that we develop a more federal outlook to this, perhaps. And perhaps here you might want to manage the cities of city campaign, a compassionate city campaign in South Asia. Who knows? This is something we talk about. But it is a great pleasure to see so many of you here today. I've had so many happy and wonderful times in Karachi. I've always been so moved by your friendship and warmth and enthusiasm and generosity. I know that as a British person, I come with a lot of baggage to you, but you've always greeted me with such compassion. And I'm so proud of everything that you're doing for the Charter and everything that you're planning to do, because we must work together now. All of us who are concerned to have a world in which our children can grow up in peace, have a stake in this. And every single one of us, however lowly our position in life, has that responsibility. So I've just told I've got 1 minute left. And so I want to use that to urge you to work to create a compassionate Karachi. What a statement that would be to a world that is often one-sided, often where we're so polarized and have such strange and inaccurate ideas about one another. And remember this. The Prophet, peace be upon him, like all the sages who created the Golden Rule, Jesus, Hillel, Confucius, the sages of the Upanishads, they were not living in peaceful mountain groves or peaceful desert oases. They were living in turbulent societies and turbulent cities like your own. And they realized that unless human beings learn to never to treat others as they would not wish to be treated themselves, and did not confine their benevolence to their own group, but included everybody in that radius of concern, even their enemies. Unless they did that, they said, human beings will destroy one another. The golden rule was never just an ethic for private life. It was also a public political act. And it's never been more true than today, that unless we learn to treat all others as we would wish to be treated ourselves, the world will simply not be viable. God bless you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. God bless you. And we all look forward to seeing you in Karachi, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. May I request the panelists, please? Thank you. We are running slightly behind schedule, so we will try to. We're running slightly behind schedule, so we will try and fast pace it. May I request the panelists to share with us very briefly their vision of a compassionate Karachi. In about 2 to 3 minutes, we would like to hear from them. How do they envision a compassionate city? Dr. Saab, may I request you please?
Thank you, Amin. I would start with something which I have learned during the last 6 years at IBA. We had just one boys' hostel, and there was no girls' hostel. And I discovered that the boys who were living in the hostel were more tolerant, were able to negotiate and resolve their disputes. They had a much better understanding of each other. Somebody came from Hazara, somebody came from Jacobabad, somebody came from Gilgit-Baltistan. They appreciated the richness, the culture, the heritage of these places, as compared to the boys who were living with their families. They would go back to Defense or Clifton or Gulshan Iqbal, and they will move around with their own, friends and kins who belong to the same class in society. In our boys' hostel, we had boys who came from very modest background, very poor families, and therefore people from Lahore who came from very rich families understood the limitations and empathy for those who were not well-to-do. So we decided that we should have more hostels. Today we have a girls' hostel for 100 girls from all over Pakistan, and we have got 250 boys, and we are expanding 2 more hostels, blocks, so that we will end up with almost 500 boys from all over Pakistan. This understanding, this mutual interaction, this tolerance are the essential elements of a compassionate society, as Karen Armstrong has described. And I think each of us can do a little bit more rather than hope that somebody somewhere will come up with a perfect solution and try to find that applicable to Karachi or to Pakistan. So my own sense is that the little pieces, for example, we started 10 years ago National Academy for Performing Arts. Karachi, with 20 million people, didn't have any cultural shows, no theater, no musical performances for such a large population. And today, NAPA has done not only the training of the young people, but also set the ball rolling for others to imitate what NAPA is doing. And every evening, you have some performance, some show, some concert going on in the city. And these cultural heritage which Pakistan has is very, very binding together, and that also leads to a compassionate society. So I just wanted to give you two examples rather than make a big abstract speech about what compassion is. And I hope that every one of you, in your own little way, will contribute towards this.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Inshallah. My friend Jameel Yusuf, if you would like to.
Yeah. I see this in a completely different context. Hearing Karen today, I was very happy that the thought perceptions are the same. Mere rhetorics on infusing compassion within the society is not enough. It won't get us anywhere. A lot of advocacy and doctoring of the thought process is required now. We have neglected this great social and moral value over the years, falling prey to the fulfillment of the worldly desires. The poorest of the poor must be reached out to in every initiative. Now let us see, is it doable? Or are we asking for a task that cannot be reached or cannot be achieved? Yes, it is achievable. Thanks to the Aga Khan Foundation for doing a study on philanthropy in Pakistan. Considered one of the poorest nations, considered a failing nation. It is the largest in philanthropy in the world. Now that is only possible if compassion has entered into the roots of the society. What you need to do now is to inculcate the minds of the younger generation, the population, the school, the teachers, as the initiative has been spearheaded by Amin, in schools and institutions, where we need to reactivate this moral value. What are we trying to resolve? What do you think is going to be? How do you define compassion? How would that be at the end of the day? What are we looking? What is the object? It means merely caring, respect for the rights of the neighbors, doable, minorities and the handicapped, forging unity and love and reducing the passion of ill-gotten wealth, caring and sharing the joys and griefs, expected in tolerant and compassionate society, to make a nation rise to the eyes of the world, to be seen not only as good governance, but humane governance. Yeah. What are the two examples? CPLC, 20 years of my life. We all were criticizing the police and the law enforcing agencies. We took it upon ourselves. Catching criminals and terrorists was not very competitive also. And we managed to do a wonderful job right up to the detection of Daniel Pearl, the Wall Street journalist, of which even the FBI was fascinated. Secondly, yes, human rights is very essential, but only advocacy on human rights does not help the poor person. They speak about the rights of women, karokari, incidents like that. But do you know, sadly, we do not have any shelter in Pakistan which can be of any value where these women can come and stay. We are proud that we have found Pana, a shelter in Karachi, which I would want you all to visit it, where the Christians, the Muslims, the Hindus, they all are there. The children are there. It is now being classified as a world-class center where they are respected. They are given treatment. Now that's the initiatives we all need to take. And now we are forming a kind of a consortium to link up all these NGOs, each working as parallel lines, to work under I Am Karachi program, so that we can reach out to the farthest ends of the society in bringing peace back.
Thank you. Dr. Hoodbhoy, we still consider you to be from Karachi, although you've left us and gone to Lahore and Islamabad. So with that, we would like you to share some thoughts.
Oh, I'm very much from Karachi. I was born here, 1950. In 1950, the population of Karachi was 0.75 million, not even 1 million. If today we talk about a compassionate Karachi, to my mind it is utterly meaningless unless somehow we cap the population or slow down the rate of growth of population, which is making administration very, very hard and changing the behavior of how individuals relate with each other. The city that I grew up in, Amin, was a very caring one. It was one in which people actually had very different kinds of neighbors. Where I live, my immediate neighbors were Christians. There were Parsis just a little ways away. There were even a couple of Hindus. They, of course, have all left. That's not to do with the population increase. That's an attitudinal issue. But what one sees now is a totally different way in which the citizens of Karachi relate with each other. You see this in the road rage. You see this in how they walk, what happens when they encounter each other. And this is not unique for Karachiites. It's not unique for even the human species. Experiments have been done by animal behaviorists. And in particular, I'll tell you about an experiment that was done with fish. If you take fish in an aquarium, there are not too many fish in that. They just sweetly swim past each other. But as you put in more and more fish into that aquarium, their behavior changes. It changes from being nice or uncaring or not noticing each other to being more and more aggressive as you increase the density of fish in the aquarium. Now note, this is not a competition for food, because in an aquarium, all the fish have food. But there is a competition, and that competition is for space. Fish need space in which to lay eggs. They need space for recreation, various needs of theirs. And in the same sense, we humans, we Karachiites need space, and that space is diminishing for parks, for theaters, for places of entertainment, beaches, places where one can go out and relax. Population is a major element, although I would say it's not the only element. I certainly do recognize the fact that Bangkok and Bombay and New York and other megacities in the world have bigger populations than Karachi, yet they're much more peaceful. And the question is, why are they relatively peaceful, whereas nobody would call Karachi peaceful anymore? And here, the issue is that of public space. In order to have a compassionate Karachi, in order to have a peaceful Karachi, we need to have more public facilities, more parks, more playgrounds, more places for boys and girls to meet. It's very important that young boys and girls meet, because the kind of sexual tensions in our society are extremely destructive. It is all those things that we must aim for. Talking nice things about compassion and so forth is good. They're harmless, but they achieve nothing unless we somehow get these delivered to us. And they will not be delivered to us. We have to create those spaces for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. I can notice you've got a big fan club in the yeah. So Shoaib Sahab, as you might have noticed by now, that deliberately we had kept here the last to just to respond also, and also as an individual, what is your aspiration of a compassionate Karachi? You as an administrator, we'll come at a later stage. We would want to know, you are from the other side of the spectrum. We'd like to know what is your aspiration for a compassionate Karachi.
That's it, Amin. I appreciate the topic which you have chosen. And just building upon what my illustrious other panelists have said, I would begin with the word of hope. Karachi represents hope basically, and it is not today that we are getting together to build up a compassionate Karachi. My observation of having served here for a quite long period of time in various capacities is that Karachi is quite compassionate. We need to build upon that. We need to shed the misnomers which have been created either by suspicion or by wrongdoings of certain people, certain organizations, certain vested groups, or through some sort of propaganda by certain sections of, those who write. So Karachi represents hope. People of Karachi, very compassionate, very, very soft-hearted, and let me assure the audience, and through you to all those who are listening abroad, that Karachi is perhaps, in my opinion, and in my experience, the most resilient city in the world. Despite the fact that whatever has happened, whatever people have tried to do to this city, which Mr. Hoodbhoy was talking about, the city has lived on. The people have braved through, and the city survives and thrives. Compassion is basically all about love, affection, care, trust, and sincerity. And people of Karachi are bestowed with those qualities. Let me tell you an example, just two examples within this stipulated time of 2 to 3 minutes which you have assigned. I'll be within that. People, when coming even from Lahore to Karachi, feel disturbed. But when they come here, they start living here, start getting adjusted. Another example, international cricket is not being played. We said the blind cricketers wanted to come. We said we'll host that. Airport to airport security. The Indian cricket team came, blind cricket team, had 3 matches here. The governor hosted a reception. And ladies and gentlemen, few words of trust from the manager of the Indian cricket team. He asked, how do you feel? He said, when I was leaving for Karachi, wife used to call 2 to 3 times a day. When I spent a day here, I'm not getting any call from her. So that is Karachi. Once you live it, you experience it, you feel it, and you realize how much. Things are, now, let me talk of hope. The hope is the youth, the civil society, the watchful media, which has to keep an eye on us, on everybody. And we need to create linkages. The government people need to develop confidence and reach out to the people. Not only the few who are in plenty, but basically the problem with Karachi, Amin, is at the moment is of fragmentization and compartmentalization. We are marginalizing out, which Jameel Yusuf had talked about a little bit, we are marginalizing out some sections of the community, either on religious grounds or on some other grounds. We do not need to. A compassionate family, a compassionate city comprises all the people living in. No matter from where, which background, which language, which sect, which mental thinking they come from. Karachi is not only educated class, Karachi is 22 plus million people. The other thing is that we are trying to create linkages. We have brought out a newsletter for the first time from the Office of the Commissioner Karachi, which is reaching out to organizations and people all across the country. So Karachi represents hope. People are brave and very compassionate. We need to build upon.
Thank you. Dr. Saab, I have a question from you, for you. People talk about, and especially in the West, when they pass a commentary that, give them education, give them jobs, and they will, shed violence, etc. And I always think that people who flew those planes into those twin towers were educated and they were not exactly poor. It's more of a mindset. Now, in this lifetime, at this phase, you are representing the education sector. How do you change mindset, and not just about terrorism or not about just violence, but just corruption? I mean, we see some of our politicians super rich, and yet they cannot shed their old like habits. So how do you bring about this mindset change?
I think it boils down to the question of trust in the governance structures of the country. When I go to Karachi University and I tell them that you should work hard and you should try to study and don't memorize and don't reproduce at the examination, you should really acquire knowledge for the sake of knowledge, वो कहते हैं डॉक्टर साहब आप किस किस्म की बातें करते हैं. मैं फर्स्ट डिवीज़न लेकर बैठा हूँ एमए में, मुझे तो नौकरी मिल नहीं रही है, लेकिन मेरा साथी जो था, जो थर्ड डिवीज़न था, उसका चाचा मामा जो है वो एमपीए है, एमएनए है, उसको तो नौकरी फ़ौरन मिल गई है. Now if you have this kind of injustice in a society, how can you really expect the youth to play the constructive role? Why is it that the students of IBA are taken by employers even before they graduate? Because they are selected on their own merit. There is no nepotism, there is no favoritism in there. So if we can popularize these concepts that honesty, integrity, merit, these values should govern the system of education, rather than the teachers themselves, who used to be the role model, are now indulging in plagiarism in order to get their PhD degrees, and they are indulging in all malpractices in order to get some few bucks. How can you expect education to be the source of change? So I think this is something we have to think about.
Okay, thank you. Jameel sir, you're known famously for founding and running the CPLC. I think we need, for a dramatically improved Karachi, we need many more CPLCs in different fields, in different walks. So give us something out of the box, something radical, something it shakes everyone and says, wow, this is something we could look at it. It could be at at your community, mohalla level, could be at, city level. Give us some hope, give us some ideas which you feel we will be able to, implement, look forward to.
I don't know whether you heard me, but I already gave you a lot of hope with the fact that we need to come out and do things ourselves, okay? Now let's see. The garbage in the city is not being picked up, right? Okay. Come to my area in Block 6 PSHS, a vast area. We have our own tractors. We change the street lights. We repair the manholes. We clean the gutters. And we do everything rather than live in dirt and filth around us. We don't just pick up my garbage and put it and throw it in front of your house. Now, these are doable things. But like I said, rhetorics, yes, Karachi is great, fantastic. We can talk about it, but is it? Are we pressurizing our political powers to be honest, just like Dr. Saab said? You need to have transparency and accountability. You need to depoliticize the administration and the law enforcing agencies. Why was CPLC needed? Why was it a success? Why were we asked to catch kidnappers? Isn't that the job of the law enforcing agencies? That was their job. We don't ask them to do it. We don't compel them to do it. We throw big parties. We call governors and chief ministers. Believe me, we praise them so much that if we praise Allah Ta'ala that much, He would say, tomorrow everybody go to heaven. It's really very unfortunate. It shocks me. It pains me. We don't reach out to the grassroots level. You're asking for compassion to a person who has no 3 meals to eat while we hog over food in parties. The amount of waste we have, we need to change ourselves. But it is doable. We proved it in CPLC. You don't catch the criminals, we businessmen, we will do it. If a Khoja businessman who's scared of the police and doesn't have friends with the police can catch 600 terrorists and be given the Sitare-e-Shujar, believe me, everything is doable in this country.
Thank you. So, Dr. Hoodbhoy, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? People talk about the Zia era, but Zia is dead over 25 years ago. What have we done since then? So, where did we go wrong? Where do we continue to go wrong? And how can we course correct? Very briefly, sir.
It's very clear. Pakistan was created in the name of Islam. Without raising the issue of Islam, Pakistan could not have been created. But once Pakistan was created, then to insist that Islam will be the basis for Pakistan is where we went wrong. Pakistan needs to be for all its citizens, whether they are Sunni or Shia or Ahmadi or Parsi or Christian or whoever. If you carry a green passport, if you have your national ID card and you're a citizen of Pakistan, then your rights should be exactly the same as every other citizen's. That is what went wrong. It went wrong with the objectives resolution. It went further wrong when Ziaul Haq took over and tried to Islamicize everything in Pakistan. And it's gone much more wrong in the subsequent decades, now that we have these jihadi outfits, each of which is convinced that it has God's orders to kill everybody else but themselves.
So, Shoaib Saab, what I'm hearing from the rest of the panelists is that we have a very uncompassionate system going on. And perhaps it is a systematic failure that we are living. You belong to the system. How do you suggest we can change the system? Sir.
Well, obviously everybody is giving examples in various spheres of activity in the city of Karachi. The city is a very holistic, and the system is quite holistic. I'm a man of hope, basically an optimist all along. The moment we get into despair or just plan to achieve the moon before doing anything, we are going for a big loss. So the main thing is that having trust in the system, in the land, in the soil, which is your pride, which gives you an identity, you carry on doing your part to bring improvement, to do something good, to keep pressure. And according to me, which I when talk to the civil servants in training sessions, is that the civil servants of Pakistan can bring about a great change. And they can be a very effective medium to bring about a change. And for that, the societal pressure is very important. The civil servants, if they are able to give up vested interests, their nepotism which is alleged on them, then perhaps they become more acceptable to the people. And then the link is created. When the link is created, the people develop confidence and they start coming forward. And that is the style, that should be the approach to bring about a qualitative and a positive, encouraging change in Karachi.
Thank you, sir. All right, so as you might have noticed, we're running short on time. We'll start the Q&A session now. We only have 10 minutes. So I suggest the best way to do is we'll take 2 or 3 questions together, and then we'll ask our panelists to respond to them. So, Ji, please. Question only, very brief, no comments, please.
It seems to me, Mr. Hashwani, you mentioned that when Pakistan was created, there was nothing here, and yet we were successful, we achieved a lot. It seems to me none of the panelists have answered that question.
Fair
and
enough.
secondly, talking about Dr. Ishrat Ahmed's thing, Pakistan universities has got an inscription, as far as I remember, खुदा तुझे किसी तूफान से आशना कर दे कि तेरे बहर की मौजों में इज़्तिराब नहीं. So your student has got limited vision. He doesn't need to go for that job if he can't get it. Lots of Pakistanis live in foreign countries and they have to make their way. But having an opportunity to succeed is the important thing. And perhaps it's the governance which needs to address that.
Thank you. Very good question. Next. Over there. Okay. This gentleman. Go ahead.
Amin?
Quick.
I had a question. In a society where education is so divisive, upper middle class या elite का जो बच्चा है वो उस education system में नहीं पढ़ता है, जो middle class, lower middle class का बच्चा और जो lower class का बच्चा जो है पढ़ता है, वो relate नहीं कर सकता है उनकी ज़िंदगी से. No section of society can relate to and empathize with other sections of society. And empathy is it's a necessary requirement for compassion. How can we bridge this education divide as academics, if you could talk about this a bit?
Thank you. The gentleman in the back, please. Yeah.
Right down.
Working. Yeah. Quick ones, two questions. Jameel Sahab, you said that we need to do it ourselves. For how long do we keep becoming sweepers for the government? It apparently is not creating change. You did it with CPLC, but the forces still remain the way they were when you started, and they keep functioning the way. So if I clean up my mohalla, what is the probability of the agency which is supposed to do it, the baldiya that is supposed to do it, when will they take charge? Number one. Number two question, Ishrat Sahab worked with IBA students, keep working with youngsters. The problem with the narrative, it's all over, the social media, the conversations, it is just so negative. We love putting each other down. We love arguing with each other. Seems like the work that we are doing with the small workshops and conferences is not really changing the narrative. How do we go about it?
Okay, thank you. Next, the person in the back. Just two more questions and we need to conclude. Sorry, we're running short of time. I'm getting hints from there.
You know, Dr. Hoodbhoy talked about creating spaces. Now, I have an example. Pervez Rahman was doing a lot of work here against land mafia and all. When she was shot and killed, what has happened? Where is the state? Commissioner Saab is sitting here. You know, what have we done? She was doing such a good work. Now, if we have such examples before us, who will come forward? Who will stick his or her neck out?
Okay, thank you. Last question, and then we'll ask all the panelists to do it.
The reality is, it's a very complex situation, not even in Karachi, all over the Pakistan. My specific question is that, do we have a new system to bring changes in Pakistan, or should we bring some changes in the prevailing system to bring relief to the people of this country?
Okay, thank you. So I'll go around. Just a reminder, one was about 1947 comment, the education divide, a narrative, holding the government accountable, and bringing about a system change within or without. Dr. Saab.
Well, I think if you look at Karachi, there is nobody who takes the ownership of Karachi's problems. There was a period when Nematullah Saab was the mayor and then Mustafa Kamal was the mayor, and things did improve in Karachi. So you must have an ownership of Karachi where the citizens of Karachi can go and plead for their grievances, get the redressal of their problems. Right now, we have done Amendment 18th and devolved powers to the provincial governments. But it is my firm belief that unless we devolve powers to the local governments, to the district governments, and to Karachi district government, we are going to continue in this highly centralized, very personalized, very whimsical decision making, which has created a distance between a common citizen and the organs of the state. So my submission to you is, whether it is education, whether it is law and order, whether it is the health facilities or the sanitation, Karachi was never so dirty as it is today as compared to the period where you had an effective local government. So I would very strongly argue that unless we devolve the powers to the towns and to the districts, we are going to continue in this, and no narrative change will ever take place unless the lives of the common citizens are changed. That is the only way I think we can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Jameel, Yusuf, sir, any
Yeah,
other-
that also answers what Umair was asking. Now, my contention is that are we fighting for it? This local government is out. Who's going to do it? They're out, everybody's out making money. It's all with the district administration, the whole city, and the politicians. Did we take a stand? Are we taking out any processions? Are we asking for the garbage to be picked up? Okay, no. Now you don't want the citizens also to do it. Then God help us. We'll be a heap of garbage with terrorism. And like Pervez Hoodbhoy said, yes, I said we want a perfect Islamic society. These terrorists who are killing, they want to go to heaven. Why don't we expedite them going fast?
Dr. Hoodbhoy.
Yeah. The issue of educational apartheid in Pakistan is a very serious issue, and there is no simple answer for it. You remember that Imran Khan, when he was talking about changing the educational system, he said, I will have only one curriculum all the way from Waziristan to Karachi. And that's completely unreasonable. You cannot have that in a society which is so divided, so differentiated on economic terms. You cannot have one education. So however well-meaning such an idea might be, it is simply not practical for your student who goes to city school or grammar school to be studying the same text as a child in a madrasa or even in a public school. So that's out of the question. But then that raises the question, what do you do? Because after all, this educational divide then creates layers within society, those which lack empathy for each other, and which is then going to be the cause of constant strife for generations to come. To my mind, there is no simple answer, but here is where enlightened leadership can come in and work towards creating the outlines of a common system in which you take good books, books that are of international caliber, use them as they are, or perhaps adapt them, translate them, whatever, but have the same books for everybody in a province to the extent that it is possible. Have similar examinations. Have boards like that of the Aga Khan Education Board, which is a quantum better than the other education boards in the country. These are steps, slow steps, by which you can bridge this enormous educational difference between them. But then, as I said, all this requires an enlightened educational leadership, and frankly, I don't see it on the horizon right now.
Shoaib sir.
Well, obviously, taking on from the last question, it's not going to be from outside. It has to be from within. And it is law of nature. Everybody, every institution cannot be alike. We are living in utopia if you're talking that everybody and every citizen would be just thinking the same. The diversity of the Pakistan society should be taken as a strength. And it is not the job of only the top leadership of the country, the political leadership, but everybody is a leader in his or her domain. That realization has to come in. A bank manager, a teacher, a principal, and everybody performs. Everybody becomes a leader, sincere leader. Changes will start appearing and things will start improving. We have to work within the system, bring in whatever changes possible through our conduct, through our character, and through our effort. और वही वाली बात कि जुल्मते शब का हर वक्त गिला करते रहने के बजाय हर आदमी अपने अपने हिस्से की क्षमा जलाता जाए.
All right, so we're going to conclude. The last item is the future mayor of Karachi. May I call her, please, on the stage? Go ahead. Go on. Future leaders of our city. Come. And they will be reading this charter for a compassionate Karachi. This is a charter that has been drafted by 400,000 visions that were submitted to us from the citizens of Karachi. So which is being revealed now. So please come in front. You can stand in front of us and do it. Wireless mic दे देना इनको जल्दी से आ जाओ. Come guys. Everyone, come and stand in front of us.
Come here,
please. A big hand to them, please. Okay. All right. Okay, you guys want to do it? Go ahead.
Compassion has historically been an essential part of our religious and societal tradition. It compels us to treat each other as we wish to be treated ourselves. Karachi, with its diverse religious, political and ethnic groups, has embodied these principles, allowing its citizens to coexist in peace and harmony over the centuries. However, in the last few decades, these values have been gradually declined due to a number of demographic, political and economic factors, and as a result, the city has been embroiled in a communal tension, violence and misgovernance. Compassionate Karachi is a civil society movement that adopts, affirms and undertakes to regain these lost characteristics of the metropolis and to make Karachi the first compassionate city in the country. We commit to promote compassionate action amongst all communities by engaging them through schools, workplaces, homes, businesses and government, and restore the sense of citizenship, unity and ownership among the masses and make them the change bearers of their respective communities. We therefore call upon all citizens to acknowledge their role to make compassion a rich and vibrant force in our diverse and fractured city. We undertake to strive together to prove quality education to all children, irrespective of their background or financial means. For every pedestrian, every worker, every youth to stroll the streets of the city without concern for safety and security. For all citizens living in the city to have access to standard medical facilities at affordable rates according to their economic means, for clean food and water, sanitation facilities to be the right of every individual and without anyone having to sleep hungry or homeless. For laws to be respected by all and applied equally, irrespective of their social, economic or political status. Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential to all human relationships and for a fulfilled community. We, the concerned society members, are joining together under this charter, inspired by hundreds and thousands of compassionate visions shared by its citizens to make Karachi a just, peaceful and prosperous city. We will strive and avail whatever opportunity and resources at our means to fulfill this vision for generations to come.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. Goodbye. God bless. Pakistan Zindabad.